Welcome to Discovering. In spite of the cold temperatures and occasional snow flurries, it is indeed spring, and I can prove it. We'll talk with a mushroom picker about the do's and don'ts of picking mushrooms. Then we'll follow some turkey hunters on their successful hunts.
We saw those 3 toms come over the hill with those 2 hens, and they're a full strut, and they came in and put on a show for us.
And it's Memorial Day, so we'll talk with a 100-year-old World War II veteran who still has his pilot's license. Kick back and put your feet up. It's Monday night and time for Discovering.
The secret streams that flow beneath the cliffs of colored stone. Forest thick and healthy with birch and pine and oak. Surrounded by the greatest lakes this world has ever known. The black bear's awesome presence as he roams the hills and fields. Call of the timber wolf, the loon's lonesome trill. The eagle soaring high above, the trout lies deep and still. These are what I treasure, the only way I measure feelings that I have for this fine land. There is so much to discover when you're a long-time lover of northern Michigan.
A slow walk through the woods, eyes glued to the ground, knife and bag in hand. It's mushroom season. I talked with local mushroom picker Sarah Toon for a quick overview of what to look for when picking shrooms.
What I'd like to share with you tonight is the correct way to harvest morels and not to poison your family or make yourself sick with Gyrometria, also known as a beefsteak or a false morel. This is the Gyrometria escalente, also known commonly as a beefsteak. People have been picking these for years and they are not considered safe to eat. Nowadays, we do know that they are toxic, skull and bones, poisonous. The real key factor when you cut into an escalente versus a morel is that you will see that the stem is solid. It's not hollow like a morel is. The Gyrometria contains a substance called monomethylhydrolazolene, which is the same component that gives octane to rocket fuel, and it does very much hemolytical damage to your bloodstream. It will cause you to go into liver failure and cease to live, but it will take you 5 days to die. So don't eat them. When you cut the morel off and you cut it open, you can see that it is hollow all the way. This morel has spored. You can see the hole in the top of that mushroom. When the fruiting body pops up from the forest floor of the earth, it only does so for one reason, because it wants to repopulate. When it blows up its fruit, it usually maintains its full size within 5 days. And once it has spored, it has reseeded. That's the only purpose of the mushroom, is for the living body of the mycelium to repopulate. Again, cutting them off. Do not disturb the mycelium. You will not have morels here next year if you rip them by the roots. So the interesting thing about the Morchella escalente is the mycelium underneath the duff of the forest could be as big as your hand, as big as a bathtub, or big as a football field. And the black conica, first cousin to the white escalente, is hollow inside. As you can tell by the darker brown, he's past his prime. I wouldn't try to preserve this one by freezing or by dehydrating, but I certainly would eat him tonight. If by chance you decide that you're going to start drinking when you're cooking your black morels, they have a chemical substance in them that's very similar to anti-abuse, and it will make you sick. Whereas the white morels, they don't have that compound in them. I find the majority of black morels all in lowland. Early in the season, you'll find the white Morchella escalentes growing in oftentimes logged over regions that were logged 2 or 3 years ago. They'll also grow in the highlands, up in the hardwoods, specifically with the elm and the ash, but that's a little bit later in the season. You can always go out and find a black morel, the conica, by Mother's Day. And when the lilacs open, you will be finding white morels. If you're going to pick mushrooms, invest in the Audubon Society Guide to North American Mushrooms. This book is ideal for giving you all kinds of descriptions about stems, caps. Please don't go pick mushrooms without a guidebook.
If you're a hunter in the UP, April and May mean turkey season. The wild turkey is our largest game bird and is a streamlined version of its domestic counterpart. Adult hens weigh 10 to 12 pounds, with gobblers frequently attaining weights over 20. Despite their size, their powerful wings can propel them at speeds of over 50 miles an hour. But unless startled, wild turkeys usually prefer to travel and escape danger by walking and running. The feathers of the wild turkey are beautifully iridescent. Gobblers differ from hens in that the breast and body feathers have black rather than brown tips, thus accounting for the overall darker appearance of the males. Adult males and a small percentage of females have a beard which sticks out from their breast. Although it looks like hair, the beard is actually a modified feather. Beards usually grow about 3 to 5 inches a year to around 9 inches long, with the longest ever recorded at a whopping 18 inches. Turkeys with multiple beards are not uncommon. Another feature is a spur on the inside portion of the leg. In females, only a small knob is present. On males, spurs serve as a way to fend off other males when they spar for dominance when gathering a harem of hens. Spurs grow at a rate of about 1/4 to 1/2 inch a year, and usually top off at about 1.5 inches at 4 years of age. Spurs can be used to help determine a turkey's age. Less than 1/2 inch would be a turkey less than a year old. 1/2 inch to 1 inch, 1 to 2 years. 1 inch to 1.25 inches, 2 to 3 years. And over 1 1/4 inch would be a bird 3 years or older. Each turkey has its own unique voice, which is how they recognize each other. They have outstanding geography skills, with the ability to learn the precise details of an area over 1,000 acres in size. Turkeys have 5,000 to 6,000 feathers. Like peacocks, male turkeys puff up their bodies and spread their elaborate feathers to attract a mate. From the neck up, the area of bare skin on a turkey's throat and head vary in color depending on its level of excitement and stress. When excited, a male turkey's head turns blue. When ready to fight, it turns red. And that long fleshy thing draped across the male's beak is called a snood. It's just another feature that helps attract females. Though turkeys don't see well at night, their daytime vision is impressive. A turkey's eyes are spaced far apart and are on the sides of its head. This gives a turkey a visual field of 270 degrees, compared to our own 180. And unlike our eyes, which are unable to focus on things in our peripheral vision, a turkey's eyes can focus clearly throughout its entire field of sight. Those eyes, along with the turkey's ability to rotate its neck all the way around, enable a turkey to spot a predator or hunter from a mile or more away. Because its eyes are on the sides of its head, the turkey lacks 3D vision. It compensates for this by bobbing its head to approximate depth perception. Turkeys also have 7 different types of photoreceptors in their eyes. This gives them excellent color vision, as well as the ability to see light in the UVA spectrum. As a result, turkeys see the phosphates found in many laundry detergents as a bright fluorescent blue. So if you use one of these detergents, you may as well skip the camo. You aren't fooling the turkeys one bit. So how do you fool a turkey into shooting range? Here's a look at a couple of turkey hunters who have figured it out.
Well, it was a successful morning, as you guys can see. We got a turkey, and it was an exciting hunt. So it started with last night. Nick Sexton was with his buddy in the property that we were hunting, and they kind of figured out where they're roosting.
We got in on the birds last night, been sitting on them for a couple days trying to figure out where they're at and starting to get their patterns down. Went out this morning, and before we even got out of the car, they were going crazy on all sides of us.
We heard gobbles from everywhere. It was crazy, the amount of toms on that property.
So we tried to get a place to sit and figured we got a good spot, sat down and called for a while. Cody was working the birds and trying to get them to come in and answering, but we couldn't get nothing close.
I was calling back and forth, and there was a lot of gobbles. We heard a few different groups of toms or jakes, and they were gobbling back and forth, and then we heard some hens. So we figured that they were henned up. So what we did, we set up on the edge of a field, and I used one of my crystal calls that I actually got from Curtis Grunden. When I cut with that certain call, those hens get very angry and they usually come in. So I figured that's what I need to do. And after a half an hour, I kept calling, and here and there I would chirp back to them, and that hen would cluck, and I knew she was interested, and they're very territorial. So next thing you know, it was a half an hour later, those toms kept getting closer because they were with those hens. Nick Sexton, one of the buddies, I wanted him to shoot with his bow first, and that was the plan. We saw those 3 toms come over the hill with those 2 hens, and they're a full strut, and they came in, put on a show for us. Those hens were very angry, and they came into the decoys, and I was telling Nick to shoot.
Got one in for me, finally got a good shot, and I was trying to get a shot with the bow, and busted me drawing back on him. He kind of quartered away and tried to take a shot. He was in between pins and I ended up shooting just low with the bow.
I figured that was my opportunity to fire a few shots off at him. I dropped him and I got him, so. With the 2 hens we called in 2 toms and 1 jake. The 1 jake had about an inch and a half beard on him, and the other tom, other than this one, had no beard. It froze off this winter actually, and Nick wanted to shoot the one with the beard obviously, so that's the one he shot at. This is the same one, and the beard's probably about 8.5 inches. The spurs are an inch and a half maybe, so he's a nice bird, probably 2.5, 3.5-year-old bird, and he's definitely was probably the more dominant one of the group that we shot. So.
Lucky Cody was there on the ball and got him with the shotgun right after, so it was a good morning, had a successful hunt, and hopefully we'll go out next time and be able to stick one with the bow.
I'm happy we had a successful hunt. It was a very interesting morning, and I'm very happy, so.
Cody and I were going back and forth tonight about whether or not we should go out. It was a little windy and kind of cold. Looked like it might be raining. But we decided to go out anyways, and biggest reason why was just increase our chances. We went out to a spot he's been scouting for a while now, and he knows there's some birds and where they've been roosting. Set up some decoys, and right away 2 of the toms came just running at the decoys. I was almost not ready to, to take the shot, but I don't know, luckily fate stepped in and they turned around, kind of went back towards the rest of the hens. They circled around and ended up coming back in about 15 minutes later. And they were a little tentative at first, and toms were kind of hiding behind the hens, didn't really want to come out and say hi. They were getting farther and farther to my left, and I was running out of a window to shoot through, so I decided as soon as I could see that head poke through, I'm going to take the shot. Just so happened the hens moved at the right time, and as I pulled the gun up, the tom kind of poked his head up to see what he was, what the movement was, and perfect shot, and took him down.
There we go, Dwight. Yeah. Woo.
Yeah, this is my first turkey ever. I can thank Cody here for getting me into it, going out and filming him for discovering the first time where he was shooting and I was filming. Then we kind of traded roles. But yeah, big thanks to Cody. He's good at what he does, calling him in. Learn from the best.
Today, at war memorials and cemeteries across the United States, we celebrate a tradition that began 3 years after the Civil War ended. Memorial Day was originally known as Decoration Day. It was declared so in 1868 for the nation to decorate the graves of the Civil War dead with flowers. After World War I, the day was expanded to honor those who died not only in the Civil War, but all American wars. It was declared a national holiday in 1971. Some time ago, I had the honor of sitting down with one of our veterans not long after his 99th birthday. He talked not so much about war experiences, but about life, along with some great advice on how to live it.
Well, actually, when I got in there, I'd been flying for about 10 years already. It was 8 years. And then when I went in there, of course, I went through the cadets just like any other guy. It was a good thing, too, because I got a good education and a lot of experience. And then went through the procedure of the 3 different flight schools to get through. And then when I got to advanced twin engine, instead of going on to combat, I did so good that they kept me there as an instructor for about a year. And then they broke the school in half. And being that I didn't join the officers club, I'm the first guy to get the hell out. On your way, kid. So we went down to Sebring, Florida, and I got checked out in the B-17 then, and then went up to Avon Park, picked up my crew of 9 other people, and did training with the airplane up there. Went to Savannah, picked up an airplane, and we all flew overseas together and over into Africa, across the Africa there. And I spent a month in Africa there, and then we moved up into Foggia, Italy. And up in there in Foggia, there was 12 bomb groups and 7 fighter groups were in that area at the same time. And that's where we flew all our missions out from there. But after 5 missions, the crews were getting kind of screwing up, so the general pulled me off and says, you're the check pilot, check these guys out and straighten them out. And that was my job from then on, is checking these guys out and teach them night flying and all the different things. To be good pilots, by God. I got kicked out of college, and then I went out told my wife I'm going to go out to the airport before we leave, and talk to this friend of mine. And he said there's a guy in Iron Mountain buying an airplane, and he's going up to Fairbanks and do bush flying. So, of course, I didn't know what I was going to do. So I jumped in an airplane there with my wife. We flew down Iron Mountain, talked to the guy, made a deal, became partners. So I turned around 3 days later and bought an airplane. I left my wife down here so I could go up and see what it was about, and get a house and that. I came back on September the 20th and picked her up, which is a kind of unique story in itself, because I loaded her in the back of that 3-place Piper airplane with 115 horsepower in the engine, and got it all her seated in the seat, and then threw 4 Cocker Spaniels and a Fox Terrier in with her and took off for Alaska. They invited me down to Oshkosh, to come down and fly their B-17. So I thought, well, I'll go down there and see what this Oshkosh deal about, because I never had a chance to go before. And a week before I was going to get down there, this guy calls me and he says, we don't let anybody over 80 years old fly our airplanes. And I thought, well, that's that. Of course, I'm only 15 years beyond. And when I was 94, I went down and flew this down to Ypsilanti. And it was kind of unique because I talked to this Norm, the guy that was the engineer on there. We had a long talk on the phone, and then he says, well, this other guy will call you in a couple of days because he's over in Japan flying right now. So the guy come back and he called me, and we had a long talk. So then I went down to fly it. They had 2 guys ahead of me, flew ahead of me, younger guys, and they must have been probably in their 40s, 50s or like that. And they both bounced the airplane pretty bad. And so then it comes my turn, I'm the 3rd one, and I thought, oh hell, I'm going to have to fly the right seat because apparently that's the way they do it, So the guy gets out of the right, and I was going to start going up in the right seat, and he comes out too, in the left seat, turns around and he points his hand at the left seat, and he says, Captain, your seat. Well, I got in that seat, and it felt like I never left it. It just felt right at home. And so I had to go down and taxi a little while there. And I did about 10 minutes worth of taxiing up and down. It takes a little while to go around the field. So then he said, okay, let's fly. And I took that airplane off, flew it around, and shot 2 landings that I greased both of them in. You couldn't even tell when you hit the ground. There was no jar, no nothing. And my life turned out to be real good in the end because I still work today on equipment and everything. And I think that my problem is I love work. If I'm creating and achieving something that's worthwhile and is future, I enjoy it, and I just keep on going. To me, to have a failure, you can never learn or really go if you don't have a few failures. And like I say, I've failed at a couple things, but I don't look back at it as failure. In a way, it gave me more zip to do it, get something done. It's amazing what people can do. I think if you believe in yourself, and you got to believe that you can do these things, and never be in a negative attitude that you can't or this is impossible, because it's surprising what you can do if you just have the mind to do it. And that's been my problem. I don't know when to quit. Never, that's right.
Well, that's it for tonight. If you'd like to keep tabs on what's coming up on Discovering or see where we've been, you can join us on Facebook or go to 906outdoors.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week right here on Discovering.